Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. This one is titled "Neighbor Blocked My Driveway. I towed his car with a rope by myself." With all the stories I've been seeing recently regarding people being so irresponsible with their cars, it really makes me think that something is changing with people. I don't know if it is a lack of awareness or lack of common courtesy, but either way, I notice most people tend to not do much about it. I was like that for a while until things finally came to a boil between me and my neighbor. Now, while I have heard some people talk about how they are friends with their neighbors, I have yet to have that kind of experience. In fact, with the neighbor directly to my left, it is the exact opposite, where instead of being nice and friendly with each other, we are basically enemies. I wish that there was a cool big story I could tell you about why we are enemies, but it doesn't actually exist. This guy just hates every single one of his neighbors, and I was not going to be the exception. Well, of course, nasty people come in all shapes and sizes, and this one came in the form of a middle-aged guy who thought, since he went to work in a suit and expensive car, that he was just naturally better than every other person he came across. Not the worst variety of horrible human, but still bad nonetheless. Anyway, I want to talk about a few things that this guy does that makes him a pretty crappy person to live next to on any normal day. Probably the biggest thing is that he wants to flaunt money in a way that is less showing off and more degrading us. For example, I mow my own lawn, a thing that a lot of people do and is not out of the ordinary, and still every time I'm out, their neighbor seems to appear out of nowhere and comment about how hard it must be to have to do the grunt work and that he just hires someone to take care of things like that for him. How a professional doing it looks so much better than doing it yourself with just a typical lawnmower. So, small things like that basically made him liked by nobody, but he did not seem to care. Now, to go off track for 1 second, I want to talk about the parking situation where I live, and that it is not exactly good. We live near a major street, so we end up with a lot of parking in front of our houses for people that could not find a spot on the main road and did not want to pay for a lot. Still, we have our driveways, and some of us put cones in front of our homes to stop people that are not supposed to park there from doing so. The city knows about the problem and basically ignores it, so we are left to deal with it ourselves. I don't worry about it because I have a driveway and nobody is dumb enough to try and park in it or block it, because then they can get towed. Of course though, neighbor does not think things apply to him, and he actually has 2 cars because his wife has her own that I don't really see her ever use. It mainly just sits in the driveway and neighbor uses it as a talking piece to show off how much money he spent on it. You can imagine he gets irritating really quickly. Since the driveway can only fit 1 car, his main car gets parked in the street wherever he can, usually find a spot as close to his house as he can. One morning I wake up, and since I have a later shift, neighbor is already back from work. I go outside to see his car parked right in front of my driveway, totally blocking me in. I am going to be late for work and go to his house to yell at him. I knock and ring the bell only to get no response from him. I see that the other car in his driveway is gone, and they must have taken that one and went out somewhere. Now I know the logical thing to do would be to call a tow truck to come tow his car away, which is why that was the first thing I did. They told me it would take 45 minutes to get a truck out to me at the earliest, so I told them never mind. I did not have that kind of time to wait, because if I was late to my shift I was going to get in a ton of trouble with my boss. I could have potentially even been fired over it because I had a responsibility to be at the store on time. And my boss did not care about excuses. There was not enough time to wait for a truck or even to take a bus to work. I had to figure out how to move the car. I did the only thing that came to my mind and got some rope from my shed. I tied one end to his car and the other I made a big loop for my hands. I then slowly but surely started to move the car and basically tow it myself. I know that everyone that knows anything about cars is yelling about the parking brake right now and how much damage I might be doing. While his car was in park, we live in a very flat region, so pretty much nobody remembers or cares to use their parking brake. Now, don't let that confuse you with me saying it was easy, because it wasn't. It was hard, and the biggest issue was that I needed to figure out somewhere to put the damn thing once I got my driveway clear. Neighbors were even watching me and smiling because they did not like the neighbor either, and I knew none of them were going to run and tell him what I did. I decided to just put his car back in his own driveway to try and make it look a little less suspicious. Plus, I could not really pull it very far anyway. Then I got into my car and rushed to work before I would be late. To be honest, by the end of my shift I kind of forgot about the whole thing until I got back in my car and saw the rope in my back seat. I was excited to see if he was back yet and got home to see that his wife's car was back in the driveway and his parked appropriately in the street. I did not see him, so I just went inside to eat something and relax after my shift. My muscles were finally feeling the effects of moving a car, and let me tell you, I would not recommend it to most people. I felt the ache in my arms for days. When I did see the neighbor again, he obviously started to accuse me of moving his car, but the funny thing was there was nothing he could do about it. I did not damage the car, and if he tried to sue me, he would basically have to admit that he was illegally parked in front of my house. Not to mention that he had no proof it was me that even did it in the first place, since none of my other neighbors that saw it told him anything. He knew it was me because it was my driveway he blocked, but he had no actual way to prove it. That just shows that if you are going to be nasty and rude to everyone that you live nearby, none of them are going to want to help you out. Also, if you block somebody's driveway, you probably deserve something much worse than having your car moved. Anybody reading this that owns a car, please only park where you are supposed to, because sooner or later someone is going to get revenge on you and you will probably deserve it. To everyone else, if a neighbor does something like this to you, don't be afraid to get your hands a little dirty, teaching them a lesson. And ripe stars, if you still enjoy the stories about crazy neighbors and people towing cars with a rope by themselves, then I would really appreciate it if you could also like the video, because that would help me tremendously. Thank you so much in advance. And the next one is titled, "Entitled Mother Got What She Deserved." To give some context, I am from Brazil and my parents always lived a financially speaking comfortable life. Around 2011, they started building a house in a closed condominium. I'm pretty sure this is not the right term in English, but I could not find anything similar. A closed condominium, CC for short, is a type of housing here that basically is a fortress. It's a huge area bearing easily over 50 houses, all of them surrounded by a huge concrete wall and have 24-hour security. Neighbor on the right side did not live there, was selling the house, so never bothered us, but boy, was the neighbor family on the left extremely entitled. Not all of them, to be fair. The father and the sister were pretty cool. They handpicked that land because the land we were building our house on was owned by a fella that passed away and his children were fighting over heritage, so they assumed they would have a few decades of peace, but the issue was resolved in less than 6 months and they sold the land to us. In that CC, there was a rule that allowed construction work to be performed between 9 AM to 5 PM between Monday and Friday, and the EM made sure to have us follow that rule. If they started working at 8:58 AM or they were still at the house at 5:01 PM, she would call the HOA. I don't know if this name applies here, but I think it is the closest that we have. The CC was managed by homeowners to file a complaint, which made the construction last way longer than it was supposed to. We had to work between 9:30 AM to 4:30 PM after some point. I'm not joking about the 5:01 PM. There was a day that we literally received a phone call at that time from the HOA asking to have the workers leave the house after an anonymous complaint. When the construction was finally finished and we moved in early 2013, we thought we would have some peace, but boy, were we wrong. She would call to the HOA to complain about any noise we made. There was a rule that loud noises were only allowed between 8 AM to 10 PM. Weekdays and weekends alike, and we did not make noise in other times. However, she would make excuses saying she had headaches, had to wake up early, etc. We really believe that any kind of sound annoys her. I'm not really sure how her husband tolerates her, and the HOA would call us because they did not want to handle her complaints. There was a particular time that we had to end a birthday party at 4 PM because she was complaining about the music and saying that our guests were blocking her driveway, when there was not even a single car parked in front of her home. Related to that case, she also would not tolerate anyone parking in front of her house. There is no specific ruling telling that people cannot park in front of other houses, you only cannot park in a driveway, to the point where she would threaten to call a tow truck. However, her guests would always park in front of our driveway, forcing us to call the HOA and get some nasty looks from her when they had to remove the car. All of this was horrible but manageable. My family does not party that much, only birthdays, and we would call 8 people at most, so we were only annoyed by her 4 times a year at most. However, here comes ES. In Brazil, it is common for sons and daughters to stay at home until they finish college, sometimes up until getting married, but ES was a special case. He was in his mid-30s, had a job working for his father, basically sat at home watching TV and smoking weed, which is illegal here, all day, was extremely entitled and owned a tuned Subaru something. All of this would be okay as it is, but he had to be a douchebag. He would call his super employed friends, who also happened to have tuned cars, to listen to music and smoke weed almost every Thursday until 4 AM, when EM was not home. Not happy with making loud noises with the music until that time, they would also get in their cars and start frickin' stepping on the gas for several minutes before leaving, waking up the entire neighborhood in the process. Me and my sister at the time were in college. I had to wake up at 4:30 AM and she at 6 AM, so Fridays were a pain for both of us. Several complaints were filed against them, but the HOA was too afraid of EM to do anything about it other than asking her to stop making noises, which she denied since her son was precious, and the HOA would then leave it alone. My sister was fed up with it one day and decided to complain directly to her. The result was being name-called, called a B-word, liar, jealous, etc., and ridiculed by the ES. He said that she did not know squat about cars, they had to do this when it was cold or else the oil would freeze. Have I mentioned that we live in Brazil? Here during winter the temperature rarely goes under 20 degrees or 68 Fahrenheit for my neighbors from the north. After that, ES made sure to make my sister's life hellish as he could, would block her car whenever he could when he saw her leaving our home, would turn on the music as loud as he could facing her window when EM was not at home, etc. My parents are the kind of people to leave things alone, that is why they did not bother to challenge her, but my father was a little vengeful. He is the kind of person that spent more on the home theater system than the rest of the appliances at home. After that incident, he would proceed to turn the music as loud as he could every Saturday and Sunday at 8:01 AM. He designed the sound system to not let almost any sound from the home theater leak inside our house, so that did not wake us up. EM would call the HOA to complain, HOA would call my father and he would ask what he was doing wrong, which would prompt no response from the HOA. Unfortunately, that revenge only lasted about 6 months from our side because my parents moved away. Me and my sister left our home as well before that. However, we found out that the people who bought our house not only were karaoke people, but also the father from the family is a big balls public district attorney. No one on their right mind would dare to mess with one here, since corruption is really strong and they can make things happen as they please. So EM never dared to complain about it. The next one is titled Choosing Debris Pickup Beggars. And yes, this story is from r/choosingbeggars. I actually commented on a post similar to this and was told it should be a CB story in itself. This is my first time posting in this subreddit. I've always been grateful I never had stories to share until this happened. This all took place yesterday morning. We have been renovating our entire downstairs for the better part of 4 months. My husband has been working on it at night and weekends. He is a plumber and has a great working relationship with someone who hauls junk for a living and often cleans up his work sites. He does really well for himself as a young man. We pay him once a week to come and haul all the debris from the renovation. When we have a smaller load, we ask our neighbors if they have big things they need to throw out to make it worth his time. We don't even ask for money, we are just being neighborly. Well, we literally finished the floors yesterday. We had him come pick up the last load of junk. It was not big, so we again asked neighbors if they had anything to add to the pile, as that would be the last trip. Everyone said no. My husband left for work this morning to find 2 lazy boys, microwave and 6 huge bags on our lawn. We were both like, WTF? So at 7:30 AM, my husband knocked on doors to find out who it belonged to. It was our next door neighbor. She told us she had nothing to dump the previous day. She then said she called her brothers to see if he had anything to dump and to drop it off at our house. That was not part of the deal. I told her yesterday was the last load and her brother needs to grab his stuff immediately. She told me he was moving and cannot get back over here, so can we have our guy pick this load up today? I said yes, but also gave her the price. She looked at me like I was nuts because we have never asked for money before. When I explained we were being neighborly and since he was there getting our trash, we asked if anyone had more to add. Now that we are done, he won't be coming over anymore. She said they cannot afford to pay for him to make the trip. My husband and son moved all the stuff to her garage, gave her the guy's number and told her to figure it out. I've been getting text all morning about her sob story because now she cannot park in her garage. Not my problem, we asked her and not her brother, who we don't know. I am still shocked she had the audacity to have her brother dump stuff on our lawn. My husband said he'd just pay, but I'm adamant that he doesn't. So flippin' rude. Aftermath of this all, when my husband came home, she walked straight over to him to give him a sob story about how her brother moved to Arizona because he could not afford California anymore, which I totally understand. He reached out to the junk man, not being disrespectful, it is what he calls himself and his company, and he is picking the load up today after he leaves one of my husband's job sites. I did not ask if he had to pay because I just didn't want to know. I also did not want to live in animosity with a neighbor we see daily. We are not rich people. We will do everything we can to help friends and family and neighbors in our community. This event will definitely make me think twice now. And yeah, ripe stars, that is definitely something I am still learning as well. It is always good to be nice to people, but also you have to be careful that people don't take advantage of you. And ripe stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel, but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously, and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.